Welcome to the Leadership Lounge Business Book Club. And glad to see you all here today. The Leadership Lounge is brought to you by Sedaris Consulting Agency, founded by myself, Alan Edwards, who's here, and Chris Duncan. This book club exists to keep us all accountable to read all of our reading goals, and obviously to make sure that we finish the books that we say we're going to read. Implement.
And then yet last night in the plane, I was like, the pressure was on. I was like, I'm 3 chapters behind. I have to do this before we land.
Right? And the way it works, right? It makes it happen. So
you would think 19 hours sitting on your butt on a plane would have gotten it read, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't also want to get too far ahead, so I had some other entertainment.
Yeah. There you go. It's a change of pace. And of course, we know, hey, there's the other reason is to implement what we find essential to our personal and professional advancement. So we meet every Thursday at noon Pacific for 30 minutes, short, sweet, and straight to the point. So if you're watching on YouTube, though, join us next week by heading over to sedaris.com/book club and sign up for the meeting link. So let me just cover a few real quick rules here. The first rule of book club is we always talk about book club. Any questions about the rules? Okay. All right. So we'll move on. So, of course, we just talked about Alan and I getting back. I was in Germany. Alan was in the Philippines. So
I stayed here and did laundry.
Yeah. You held down the fort and kept the house clean, huh? All right.
Much.
So we want to remind, want to remind everyone that this week we are covering the Let Them theory by Mel Robbins. And so this week we are discussing chapters 10, 11, and 12. 10, basically, how to make comparison with your teacher, talks about jealousy and comparison. So we'll go into that. Chapter 11, the truth about adult friendships. 12, why friendships fade. So just as a reminder. So as always, we're going to take these lessons and talk about how they relate to life, work, and leadership. So personal and professional. Let's go ahead and dig right in. Chapter 10. Who would like to start off by sharing their thoughts on chapter 10?
This was a chapter about Molly. Well, this is my take on it anyway. I guess I remember Molly, good old Molly, who was interior designer, I think, wasn't she?
I felt attacked. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was just relying on history for, this is again what I think happened. She was relying on history and the fact that there was no competition in the area to just do her business. And then all of a sudden, a neighbor built a better website, did better social, and was all the talk around the neighborhood. And now Molly felt threatened that this noob was poaching on her turf. She talked about how she should have been doing these things, improving her website, getting out on social, taking pictures of her client site, but never did. And this new noob to the neighborhood gave her the kick in the pants to get out and start doing it.
Well, that wasn't her initial response, though.
That's true. What was her initial response?
His response was, I can't believe this is happening to me. There's this lady who seems to be inferior in every way, but the ways that count, which is marketing and sales, is mowing my grass, taking my turf. And I think that it came from, honestly, this is a feeling I have all the time. I also own an events venue in my local town called Trickster's Hideout. And I feel this all the time. I see someone else doing a better job than me. And I'm like, why didn't I? I knew I was supposed to do that. I'm not even taking lessons, or I already knew I was supposed to do that. And then I didn't do it. And I just feel mad at myself.
You and Molly.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to? Oh, go ahead.
No, going to I think the point of the book then was just that, we have to leverage that feeling as motivation. All right, then this is my reminder to get it done now, not just know that I should do it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna second that. When I was a kid, my neighbor told me to find somebody I wanted to be like. and try to get to, find somebody who's doing what you want to do, and go after that. And so for me, it seems like she had a problem connecting jealousy to admiration. And that, for me, like I try to check myself in that point, like, am I jealous or am I in admiration? And if I'm feeling jealousy, I'm like, well, what are they doing that I can do? Right. And then it kind of helps me convert that feeling, because otherwise you go down that nasty rabbit hole, and nobody likes to be there.
Mm. I appreciate that, Cody. It's a good word to talk about, is that admiration, the difference. Anybody else? I'll ask a couple of questions later, but I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to comment.
Yeah, I also I like what Cody just said too, and I think this is the age-old keeping up with the Joneses, right? I mean, she goes in later about the neighbors, or she goes to the house or the friends, with the amazing playroom, and again the same cycle over again, jealousy, and why don't we have this? We've worked hard. Talks about going into marriage counseling, so she maybe blamed her husband a little bit for this. I don't know, but anyway, keeping up with the Joneses it seems somewhat American. I think we do this probably more than a lot of people, but it's also worldwide. The counter to it, though, is you read the studies on true happiness, and it's oftentimes the people that have the least physical comforts, but they've got the best families around, friends, communities, villages. So I think you have to determine where you're going. Just as Cody said, you got to determine where you're going to find your worth, what you're going to admire. Is it what you can't have, what other people have, or is it being grateful for what you do have and seeking out the things that are more important?
Appreciate that. And one thought to think about is, do you agree that jealousy is actually a good thing? What's something, is there something that you could think of that recently sparked jealousy for you? Just some thoughts on that. Any concluding thoughts on chapter 10?
I think it can be a serious driver of friendly competition, especially within our professional lives. I mean, if somebody gets a promotion that you are eyeing for, well, what did they do that you didn't, right? And it, like, the skill of reverse engineering circumstances can help kind of mitigate the feeling of jealousy and move into that admiration space, right? And so, yeah, I think can be a good driving force.
I've reflected a lot. I mentioned to you guys like 3 meetings ago the word stoic. I was like, that was an epiphany for me, and I keep applying it because people think I'm a bit emotionless at times because I have great control of my emotion, and I have to remind people, no, I have jealousy. I just recognize that it is a initial hormonal chemical response, right? It's scientific. I am supposed to feel jealousy, and my choice is what I do with it next.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been probably a lot of my motivation my whole life to get businesses done, start businesses, build value in businesses, because I'm jealous of what other people have and have done. You do the Bill Gates and the Jobs and all these folks in the world, and I want that. So what can I do about it?
Excellent.
I think it's a fundamental driver. I think it's part of who we are. I don't know if it crosses culturally, but it's definitely continental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate those thoughts. Yeah.
We need to get some more folks from overseas in here.
Yeah. All right, we could looks like we could move on to chapter 11 if we have time at the end. Somebody could also chime in a little bit about 10. Okay, so chapter 11, the truth no one told you about adult friendship. What do you think about this chapter?
I felt reaffirming because I had this question myself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the same. I think this put a pin in what I already knew, but it put words on it that, the great scattering, that what happens to these friends, where do they go? Yeah, the great scattering, I think, summarized it for me. There's phases in your life where you've got this cluster of people, then something happens and your cluster dissipates, and it seems, it happens, it just happens. You don't plan for it. And then looking back on it, you wonder what happened.
Hell, look at Chris and I.
Mm-hmm.
How many, what was our record time between communications, you think?
Oh, God, it's probably been 10 years or
Did
more.
we hit a decade? Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
What do you think what about the lines between having standards and letting people come and go throughout your life, personally, professionally? You see how that might apply?
I think that's a natural part of life, now that I'm over a certain age, I think about not only the great scattering, things change. She talked about proximity, timing, and energy, or something like that. I would also add like interest. People are connected based on many of those things, and friendships, adult friendships, I think often, I worked in the public sector for over 20 years, and those individuals became like my work spouses, right? People talk about the work spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm not in that sector anymore, and I don't have regular daily contact with those folks, the friendship piece, you have to make an effort because you have your other life, right, beyond work. Let's hope you have another life beyond work. And so I think that just that piece of who do I want to spend my time with, the intention, and how do I want to spend my time is really important when it comes to adult friendships. And there's just that natural, I used to tease, like, I'm too old to make new friends. I don't have time for that type of energy. And so I just find that as I've gotten older, my friend group has gotten smaller, and they're very specific to certain things, mostly based around interest. So.
Yeah, what did she say?
Yeah.
200?
Jay, I think I think Jay was trying to say something, but I think he's muted or something. Let's see.
He
We
definitely.
cannot.
Maybe
there we
that's
go.
a good thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that as we mature emotionally, we start gravitating toward people that make us better people ourselves, and more away from those who drag us down.
Mm.
And so I think it's an intentional growth, and I think she does a good job in this chapter of dealing with that. Is yes, we scatter, but there are reasons why we've grown up more emotionally. Like you said, our interests have changed, and so we start focusing in on what actually gives us life instead of sucks life away from us.
Mm.
And the amount of time that we're willing to invest as well. And you kind of hit on this a little bit. When you're in college or high school or college, you've got nothing but time, basically, right? You just want to be surrounded by friends all the time. You think you're busy. We all think we're busy in the 20s, and then you hit your 30s and your 40s, and you're like, oh, I was so cute. Oh, I thought I was busy. When you get older, you start to you really have to determine where to put your time, right? And you're going to be much more selective in where you put your time with your friendships. I specifically remember my absolute best friend in my freshman year of college. We were inseparable. We went everywhere together. We got along like gangbusters. Everybody just knew us as, when they saw one of us and the other one wasn't there, they were confused. Like, where? And then after college, we just sort of don't talk much anymore. We keep together on Facebook or something like that, but we haven't really talked, and it's fine. Neither of us is upset about it. It just changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also kind of weird. Like, not that story in general, but just how you can have such close friendships. This guy's just so weird, but such close friendships, and then it just goes bloop. But if you would have forced that separation, there would have been trauma. It's just odd human nature.
And you talk about forcing the separation. Also, if you force the coherence of it, right? If you guys are naturally separating in your relationships and interests and time, and you continually try to remain friends forcefully, I think that causes a lot of different points of contention within the relationship, and it can really blow up at that, right? Because you're not allowing kind of nature to take its course, I guess.
I did have one question for this group. I don't know if it was this chapter or if I'm getting all the chapters mixed up. However, she does talk, I don't know if she tells the story about inviting one of her friends, hey, you should move into the area. And then that friend becomes better friends with her friend group. And then she got really upset about that. Is that, to me, I thought, man, that's kind of an immature one. And I have a lot of issue with Mel Robbins, so forgive me. Two, it's like, is this a gender thing? I was like, why is she so hell-bent on like the fact that you told your friend to move to town? And now I was like, do men get upset about this? And I'd be curious. I'm going to throw it out to the men group here. Do you guys get upset if like you're not invited to, drinks? Ooh, Alan's nodding his head. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, again, I've mastered this word stoic now, and I absolutely get upset, but I do not act on it or dwell on it further. But I acknowledge that that's my initial feeling.
Huh.
I would have liked to
mature.
tell them, no, I'm too busy, but they didn't invite me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it may just, I think, I agree. It's there. I don't think it's the extent of where you want to go TP the house and set the car on fire. But
That idea's in his head, just saying.
yeah. But I think it's there at some extent. Like it's
Okay.
more about being left out, I think, than anything else. Like why weren't, and didn't she talk about that in a previous chapter or something where you weren't invited to the party?
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I appreciate her, totally, she said, it really hurt my feelings. It really did this. And then I thought, oh, okay, I appreciate the fact that I acknowledge where she is with it. And then I really started thinking, is this a gender thing? And I don't know.
Well, me, I look at things a little bit differently. I'm one that I like introducing people and help people make connections. And so with the exception of very few people, my relationships are pretty short term. Matter of getting to know somebody and helping them connect with others versus some of my really longtime friends that there wouldn't be anything that separate us. So I can see both sides of that. It's a little bit different. It depends on how you're wired a little bit.
I agree.
I'd like to just chat with you for a second about Mel. I do listen to audiobooks relatively fast, but I have hers faster than most. And I think it's the same reason she and Robert Kiyosaki are best-selling authors, which is they write simply and they write to the masses. And I feel like the people in this room are also leaders, and we do think and act differently.
Yeah.
So I'm not the only one who
Go
has her on 2X then, apparently.
Yeah.
No, I read her in text, and I end up with a lot of questions about like emotional intelligence and emotional maturity and things of that nature. That's probably stemmed to how she was raised as a child more so than how she was conducting herself as an adult, right? Because a lot of that stems from childhood. And so, yeah, you're not alone in that.
Yeah, and later on in the book, you'll hear a lot more of that where she is talking about raising children, and that's where I went off the rails with her. It's like, you've got some issues.
Yeah. As far as chapter 11 goes, that's one of the things that I've got some notes that I summarized on that. And one of the things I was thinking, well, on a professional level too, because I thought this is really personal. How do we relate this professionally as leaders or, and I was thinking, okay, what about reconnecting with old clients, potential collaborators, professional connections that we really want to maybe meet or get mentored by, things like that. So I thought, well, maybe we could apply it to that. But I have to admit, I was like thinking that I felt like I was a fly on the wall at a confessional of some sort, the way she was just sharing her personal insight. Well, put it this way. She was giving birth to a concept for herself, this was an epiphany. It was a relation. It was a revelation. For some of us, we think, well, no doubt that's how we live life. But for her, it was a true revelation. And so I think that's why she gave birth to this book. For her, she needed to do this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I also go ahead, Sky. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, sorry. And it does apply to the let them, right? I mean, that's clearly where she's going back. She's let them, let the friendships fade if they're going to fade, let new friendships come in if they're going to come in, with the proximity, timing, and energy. I push back a little bit on these, in that those two of these are physical things, proximity and timing, though you don't have no control over that. And the third one is energy, sort of effort you put into it. I think there's more to adult friendships than these. These are interesting, but they sort of happen or they don't happen. I think the more important things to adult friendships is trust, commonality, future vision. Where are you going? Do you have something to offer? Not that it's a tit for tat, but do you have something to offer the world? And can I come alongside you? The friendships form out of those kind of things. So I think she hit on some basics here. I think we're kind of saying that all over here, that in some ways, this book goes basic and then it goes deep again, and then it goes basic again. This might be a little bit more of a basic chapter. There could have been a little bit more depth to it, but I think she's just trying to make the point of, hey, let it happen. Let them, if it's going to happen.
I do find it interesting. We've all actually been talking about 11 and 12 in our and that's because, to me, 11 was kind of this thing happens, and a 12 was more of the why. To me, 11 was an introductory to 12. And then when I have a formula: time, energy, and proximity. And as Chris and Shannon can attest, I love trying to cram details into categories. And everything you just added, Sky, I could, maybe not in the book, I could cram it into the energy category. Do we share energy? Do we have a universal energetic language of how high my wife calls me a floater? Are you vibrating above everybody else? That type of woo-woo stuff. That's all energy to me.
And I don't
Yes,
think
so Sky, you did segue us into chapter 12, so I appreciate that. Go ahead, Chris. You're
good segue. Yeah. I don't think proximity is as big a deal as it used to be either. I would say more of my friends are not around me than are. Categorically, I think I could probably drive to 3 or 4, but I could probably fly to dozens.
Now, does this count as proximity, this group right here?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't. Do we redefine it a little bit?
I think it does. I mean, my regular communication is on this type of platform with people that I've met all across the world. And I don't spend 200 hours with them, but a half an hour a day over the span of a year or two, I mean, that adds up, right? And you get to know people. And I've gone on trips and then met them in person, and I'm like, yeah, I like you just as much now as I did yesterday on the phone, I think it absolutely counts as proximity.
Biggest compliment I've ever gotten is showing up at a trade show and then going, "You're exactly as I imagined you." Like, oh,
Then you have to ask a few more questions about what did you
Nope,
imagine?
I never asked a question you don't know the answer to.
To be honest, if you when a friend takes a long time to text you back, respond to you, or anything like that, what story do you start telling yourself?
That they're not my friend anymore.
Burn it down.
Erase the phone number. No, I'm going extreme just for the. I just had a friend text me this morning that I asked a question. I think it was a week and a half ago. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm just sorry I'm just now getting back with you. Here's what I'm thinking. Okay, fine. I am sure he was busy. He was busier than I was. I know what he does. I know what he was doing. Fine. It clearly wasn't a pressing question, or I would have picked up the phone, or I would have, tracked him down. So to me, fine, no big deal at all.
I do have one friend who I senses starts to panic when I don't respond, and I frankly have responded even less now because of it. I feel like it is my duty to train them. I might be busy today, and I will text you tomorrow. It can wait.
You're a ruthless
Oh,
leader, Alan.
How about this? How
Or
about
just
this
ruthless.
upcoming generation though, where you have to respond with a thumbs up or a what's the other emojis you're supposed to put in nowadays? You have to respond with something, otherwise they feel like you don't care. That I think that's a bit of a generational thing there too.
Well, Chris is the king of responding with the weirdest, craziest emojis I've ever seen, and I'm old. I can't even tell what it is. I have to get my glasses. Like, I think it's a frog with a crown on its head. What does that mean?
Yeah. Some are built specifically for you at that moment too. So custom emojis.
You can tell he's responding to kids a lot.
Yeah. I also think when I moved to Georgia, time was different. There was an expectation, whether I guess there wasn't an expectation that you respond right away. Like a telephone call and a voicemail could be met with 5 days of silence before they called you back, and that was okay. But you move that up to Boston and New York, and that's all of a sudden a divorce call. Like culturally there's an expectation of that response time.
This is great to hear because I was raised in Georgia, lived there the first 40 years, and I didn't know that was just us.
Yeah, it's just you.
Yeah, no, I wasn't like that, which is why I left.
Well, it's interesting when you dive into the expectations of the different forms of communication. What the research is showing is that a text message, it's expected to be returned within 5 minutes, otherwise you're late. An email within an hour or two, and a phone call within the day. And that's changed drastically over the last 20 years, where that expectation where, okay, they'll get back to me within a few days was the norm. So we're looking at a whole different society now that is digital, and the expectation, particularly with younger people coming into the world and communication world, those expectations are drastically accelerated.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I appreciate how you mentioned too about the potential, like just trying to understand, is this a gender thing and some of these questions? And I'll have to say for myself, I'll admit that I think for a man, I think I'm overly sensitive towards some of these things. I think I believe that, like maybe I'll notice when friends do something. It's kind of like what Alan said. It's like, okay, I'll notice it. It's just that I don't really show it. I don't really act on it, but it hurts. It stings. I brought some like beach volleyball to a competitive level here in Southern Oregon, and some of the people that I feel like I was training and everything, it's like they just went off and left and started playing without me and started, I remember being really hurt by that. It's like I was a little boy again, it's like I wasn't taking my ball and going home. They were taking my ball and going to play with other people. So yeah, so I thought you brought up a unique thought. So I always appreciate the insights of this group. I'm always impressed.
Yep. All right, next week,
So,
what chapters are we on?
are we going to do 13, 14, 15 next week?
That's it.
Yep.
Should breeze through those.
Yep. We got just a couple minutes left. Anybody have any concluding thoughts to burn and share?
Yeah. So you asked the question, like, what's that story we tell ourselves when, your buddy doesn't text you back? One thing that that I struggled with as a younger man, and I still have to remind myself now, is not everybody lives their life at the same pace as me, and not everybody lives on my schedule, right? And so oftentimes, my wife, I text her and then it's 2-3 hours and I'm like, oh yeah, she's busy. She's not on my job is like, I'm doing these things in succession. I did them quickly and now I have this free time. She doesn't operate that way, right? And so her day is very structured and scheduled. She has, structured free time, where I squeeze free time in where available, and so that makes communication a little bit more dynamic. And so I expect her to answer on my schedule when really I should be expecting her to answer on her schedule, right? And so, yeah.
Well, thank you for all your wonderful insights. I'll keep it on schedule. And that's all for the Leadership Lounge today. Same time, same place, Thursday at noon Pacific, bring the book, bring your thoughts, and we'll see you there. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you, everybody.
Be back.
Yep.
Great.
care.
Thank you.